day 2. Bit quieter atmosphere today. We can't be in the pub for all of them. This is the Beermat official World Cup podcast, getting you the best of the action every day and my terrible, terrible opinions on it. Egypt Uruguay currently underway, and well, it's been a bit of a the pause there should tell you everything that you need to know about the respective quality, and it's a little bit of a surprise from Uruguay's perspective. They haven't really shown what you think, and their tag of potential dark horses, it almost seems like that's sort of weighing them down a little, especially with no Salah in the starting lineup. They're heavy favourites now, and they've not really been able to impose anything. Suarez has looked very sluggish, and commentators are absolutely tearing into pieces. But the thing I would say about Suarez is that, like, whether he's having a bad game or a good game, him being in and around the action is what you want. I've never really seen games where he disappears completely, so I wouldn't count him out in the second half, coming out and getting a goal. Also, as well, as far as Egypt are concerned, man, that did not look good when someone tapped his shoulder just before the game, and he made a movement, shall we say. I'm not going to quite stretch it out to suggest that, like, it's even worse than people thought. But then again, we were suggesting this in the tournament preview, that he's probably not going to play as much as anyone thinks, and he's sort of almost there for mascot reasons. And you could sort of see in his face while they were doing the national anthems how much it means to him to be there, because to be on the bench, he did not look happy at all. Maybe you'd think if he's like got anything in the tank, the game's going well enough that if you can get him on actually with half an hour to go, I do wonder whether we are going to see him. And I think this next 45 minutes is going to sort of set up how bad that injury is, because they played really well. The closing down has been fantastic. They're a bit more fluid than I was expecting, but not necessarily fluid in the sense of when they're with the ball, they're really high and they're really interchanging positions and just absolutely snapping and not giving Uruguay a second. When they're sitting back, you can see the coaching in them, the two banks of four. They're giving a lot of width to Uruguay, who aren't able to exploit it at all. I think it took 20 minutes for Uruguay to actually play the first passing move through it, and again, they've not really had led to anything apart from that one moment of Suarez doing his impeccable Raheem Sterling impression of scoring a goal that everyone thinks is in, and then when you watch the replay you realise that it's not. I was actually watching the replay for an offside, so I didn't even see the fact that it didn't go in until 3 times. So fair play to Suarez for contributing to that, and we'll see if he can get on and this game can actually liven up a bit. And not only that, once this is over, we've still got 2 more games to go. Well, we're here at the end of the day, and I have sat for what is quite an extended period of time, absolutely bathed in football. 2 games done and half of a game to go, and at this point it has been absolutely fantastic, and not necessarily, and yes, it has sort of come to a point, but we all knew that Spain v Portugal was going to be something, but what we have seen so far is something else entirely, and that's before we even get to the second half, which I'm not even going to get to the first half just yet, because I've got to recap the other games that played today. Earlier I spoke about the Egypt and Uruguay game, and actually, funny enough, both games that have already finished have a very similar story, even if they take very dramatic different routes to get there. Egypt had defended manfully, and when it became very obvious that Salah wasn't going to come on, you thought to yourself, oh well, they've got the point and Salah gets a few more days, so maybe that's good enough for them. And then heartbreak right at the end with that goal. Unbelievable scenes, and just sort of, it almost feels like the World Cup is over before it's even started. They've got to get themselves together, they've got to regroup. The thing for Egypt, which is a good thing, is that they will fancy the chances against Saudi Arabia, definitely, and if Salah's back, they'll definitely fancy the chances against Russia. But what it does do now is it puts a lot of pressure on that game, and if Salah doesn't necessarily start it, it could be well on the back foot. As for Uruguay, they're going to have to play a hell of a lot better than that if they're going to live up to their tag, if they're going to go further on. But as far as they're concerned, you get the win, any means necessary, very sort of grit, determination, all the cliches you would say about Uruguayan football, and they got over the line, despite the, what you would call, downfall of Luis Suarez. He's written off, he's definitely the worst player in the world. Watch him play really well in the next game. He'll probably get 2 or 3 against Saudi Arabia and everyone will be fine again. Also, I want to mention a quick shout to the Egypt player Trezeguet, who is the closest representation to what I would call me on a 5-a-side pitch. Absolutely running down blind alleyways, playing balls that he's played in his head before he's even received the ball, he wants to play the game at 100 million miles an hour, and it's completely bypassing him. And I was a big fan. It reminded me so much of my own good self. That's taken to heart. Well done there. Moving on to the next game, which, again, 1-0 late. Even more heartbreaking circumstances, really. Morocco, and for them, this is a bit of a death knell because they've got Portugal and Spain to play, whereas Egypt can bounce back. Morocco, this does not sit well. This was a game they kind of realistically had to win, and on the preview podcast, we were bigging up the idea that they could get the win, and after a really good start, actually, I think Morocco played up until that point probably the best football. I mean, arguably Russia destroyed Saudi Arabia, but the football in and of itself wasn't as fluid as what you saw in those really early stages. Maybe I'm just doing Russia a disservice, and I was very much on board the Morocco bandwagon. But that being the case, again, time ticking down, you're thinking one of these sides really could do with getting the winner. And Iran, obviously, conceding only 5 goals in 18 qualifying games. They're going to surprise a few people in terms of how absolutely solid they are. And I think this is the point and the problem that we have with these kind of games, in the sense of no team is actually that shit anymore, really. If you get to this stage, you've got to have something about you. The scouting, the organisation, the coaching, the level of detail that is out there in modern football. You're not going to get completely 2 inept teams playing each other and it's going to be 5-5 because they're terrible. What it'll be is 2 solid organised sides that neither necessarily wants to lose but doesn't necessarily have the qualities to break them down and win. I'm very interested to see how that Iran defence does against what we've seen in this first half, Spain and Portugal, 2 absolute wow sides. And I think I can hear the narratives being written already about how Lupagretti being replaced by Hero just before the tournament started. We've still got 45 minutes to go for Spain to turn this around, and I think the thing for them is that they were actually getting some joy and they were actually pressing Portugal back. In Portugal, I mean, what can you say about Ronaldo, man? This is ridiculous. I'm running, sometimes people say I'm running out of superlatives and I'm running out of actual ways to describe how good he is. I'm running out of ways to hate the guy because everything about him makes me want to hate him. But if he is, I think he's become one of the only 4 players the BBC just mentioned to score in 4 World Cups, and he is dragging what actually looks like a much, much better Portugal side. So it's not really Ronaldo dragging, more so they're all coming together. That's a terrible use of the word on my part, but this is really interesting actually, in the sense of Russia in Group A are playing well above what I thought they would play and could actually have an impact later on in the tournament if they continue. That's 1 game, so really hard to sort of take that further. But the momentum that a host side could get, and the momentum that Portugal could get if they manage to hold on and get this win, is a side that only 2 years ago wasn't in its best form and still managed to win the Euros. They will fancy their chances against anyone in a knockout game, especially with Ronaldo playing the way he does. And I have got to get back. I've got an Estrella chilling in my fridge. Just come home with it. It didn't even have time to cool before the game was going. It was both the actual beer itself and the game was so hot. And I'm going to go break that out now. What do you say after that? Utterly breathtaking. What a game from start to finish. Absolutely. Very rarely do you get a big game that lives up to the hype. Very rarely do you get a game early on in the World Cup that is so filled with drama, good play, and really, really good goals. And that was absolutely... I struggle to think there will be a game better than this at the rest of the tournament, and we're only 2 days in, so that's amazing. The bar has been set. Ronaldo, man, I think everyone knew from the moment he set that ball down where that ball was going. I wouldn't go so far as to get into his record with free kicks at a consistent level, but I really can't take anything away from him after that. There may be a few people who will question Spain's game management toward the end, the substitutions perhaps, but I think sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and go, we were 3-2 up until quite very possibly the second best player in the world absolutely blammed on him for a free kick, and I'm being a little sort of needly there, but it's with the utmost smile on my face because that's football that we want to see. And the reason why the World Cup is so beloved as it is is because of really, really good players doing it on the world stage, and that was a hell of a performance, both from Ronaldo and from a few of the Spain players. Isco in particular was top class. The finish for Ronaldo's goal was amazing. I think, realistically speaking, the only thing that was missing from the end of that game was an Iago Aspas corner right at the end, and it's the same sort of scenario as I said at half time, like, or where do they go from here? They've shown enough. The only thing I would say from a Portuguese perspective, flipping it, is that game was quite open and there was space to exploit. And for instance, you can run at defences and get free kicks like that for Ronaldo to try and have a go. Iran won't give them much space at all if what we've seen over the last, 2 years from them, not least of all the game today against Morocco. And I do wonder how I think Spain are better equipped to deal with the lack of an open game, but I mean, you wouldn't bet on both of those two sides winning the other two games. Let's face it, when was the last time everyone was this hype about a draw in the World Cup? Let's not forget that as well. I mean, a lot of people would say you get draws at the first round of group games when no one wants to lose, but that was genuinely something special. And also as well, speaking of really special, what we've got to look forward to is 4 games. So it started with a 5-0. Today, we've had in every single game a last gasp action drama winner. We've only seen 2 big guns in Portugal and Spain so far, and tomorrow we get the chance to see France. We also get the chance to see Argentina. Oh, the amount of people that are going to be all over Messi if he doesn't score a hat-trick now. He might be terrible. But I'm looking forward to seeing all of it, and thank you for listening. Day 2 done.